Good evening, everybody. Well, at least it's sort of evening here on the East Coast. Welcome to another episode of What's Coming Down the 5e Pike with Goodman Games. I am your host. I'm running solo right now. Chris Doyle. I am the director of 5e development at Goodman Games. And this is our third episode doing this show. If you guys are not familiar with what we do with this show, this is the show where we kind of talk about everything that we're doing on the 5e side of the house. Mike handles the DCC side of the house with his Maw of Mike once a month. And then this is the equivalent show, if you will. And I will be doing this show. We are going to be picking the pace up of the show coming up. We're going to be doing this about every other month. Starting now. So we have a lot to talk about. I do have a special guest we're going to bring on a little bit later on to talk about some of these awesome projects. But first of all, I want to run down and I want to give you guys some updates on some of the projects that we have going on. As always, put questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, and our wonderful producer, Elena, behind the glass, will be doing the same. So if you've got questions, throw them in there. I'll answer them as best I can. We do really appreciate the back and forth with the show. And of course, as always, this will be posted on YouTube afterwards. So if you guys are following us when it's not live, that's great too. So I'm going to get right into it. So we have a couple of updates. We're gonna start with some updates. Then I'm going to review a product that's already been out, and we're going to show lots of pictures. And then we've got some really exciting announcements to make. Well, we're announcements where we haven't made them before, so you're going to get some cutting edge material here. So first, updates. Crypt of the Devil Lich is on its way to the printer. Yay! So that we've, this project has gone through the ringer and back again. We added a lot of stretch goals to it, and then we've had a lot of behind the scenes and printer issues and whatnot, changing things. But it is finally off. PDFs are going to be going out to the backers probably next week sometime. I don't have an exact date. But at some point, you guys will be getting the final PDFs, and the VTT assets are going to be coming shortly after that. And then the Fantasy Grounds VTT support is going to be coming a little bit after that. So these things are all being worked on kind of at the same time. So, the VTT assets need to, wait for the module to get done before we can move on to the next step of it. So, so we are looking very forward to getting that one out the door. Then we've just got the long impatient wait of the printer, the print run and everything. So, but hopefully that will get kind of turned around as quickly as it kind of can. And that's going to be in everybody's hands, but at least you guys will have the PDFs very, very soon, the final PDFs, I should say. Our second update, this one was actually already announced about a week and a half ago, that Dark Tower is coming to Kickstarter very soon, actually May 16th. So that's a week from Monday. It's coming to Kickstarter, and Dark Tower will be ore number 7. If I had a dime, every time somebody asked me a question of what ore number 7 was going to be over the last year and a half, I'd be a rich person. So if you're familiar with our ore books, those are our original adventures reincarnated. We call them ore around the office. If you're familiar with that kind of setup, this is what you're going to get. We're going to get it's going to be a 3 book slipcase edition. So there's going to be 3 hardcover books in a slipcase. Elena, if you can put that image up there and show that. So it's going to be fantastic. The first volume is going to be a reprint of the first edition module with a bunch of essays in it. If you guys are familiar with our other books, the essays, we've got essays from Justin Alexander, who is the guy who coined the phrase "jaquazing the dungeon." John D. Rateliff from TSR, he's doing one of the essays. And Eric Mona it's escaping me right now, Pathfinder, God, what's that company? Paizo, excuse me. So he's doing one as well, and that's just a few of them. So we have a lot of essays. The second book is going to be the 5e conversion of the original module. For those of you who don't know, the original module was 80 pages long, so there's a lot of material in there. And then, of course, we got to have some fun and play in that sandbox. So we expanded the wilderness, we expanded the region that Dark Tower is set in, and we've got a couple extra dungeons out in there. We've got a couple of stretch goals for some even more material. on the 5e side, and of course there's going to be a full DCC version of Dark Tower as well, so you guys won't be left out. And then volume 3 of the book is going to be a trilogy of adventures called The Chosen Sons of Set. So we're very excited about that. If you guys, anybody who's familiar with Dark Tower, Set, the big bad guy in it, has these demonic fiends that are, you can generate them randomly with a bunch of tables. So they all have different appearances, they'll have different abilities, and there's only 4 chosen sons of Set, and then there's a bunch of lesser sons of Set. One of the chosen sons is in the Dark Tower module proper. And then if you can do some simple math, we have a trilogy of new modules. So think about what the theme of those new modules are going to be. So we had a lot of fun with that. And all of that material is written. It's all just about edited. So we're hoping that there's going to be a pretty quick turnaround time on this Kickstarter as opposed to our Crypt of the Devil Lich. So we feel that we're in really good shape there. What's also really exciting about this Kickstarter is some of the add-ons that we have. For starters, we have dice. So Elena, if you want to pop up that picture of the Kickstarter exclusive dice, that way the folks can see that. That would be great. And in addition to dice, we actually have, there's a company that actually produces metal miniatures, and they have their own Dark Tower line. They've been out for a couple of years. If you want to start popping up the minis pictures, that would be great, Alana. And these are, and you can see these pictures are beautifully painted. They're wonderful minis. And from what I understand, they are going to be making some new minis that are going to be exclusive for this Kickstarter. So if you're excited about add-ons and additional stuff in the Dark Tower universe, multiverse as we like to call it, there's going to be plenty of content for you, and plenty of opportunities. So we're looking at that. I'm just going to check to make sure what we got on questions. Yep. Yeah, shipping. I'm sorry, we can't do any. I wish we could do something about shipping. You know, shipping is one of those things that I'm sure if you guys back other Kickstarters, you've seen some of the pushback on some of the things. Shipping is just, this is the world we live in, guys. I mean, shipping for anything is just going to be ridiculous. So I wish we could do. I do not think those minis are coming pre-painted. I'm not sure though, that I'm not 100% sure on that. So you're gonna want to check out our Kickstarter launch. We'll have information on it. I'm pretty sure they're unpainted, but I don't know if there will be an option. I'm not sure if the company offers that option or not. All right, so that looks, yes, everybody feel sorry for your wallets because it's going to be a big time. If you guys haven't figured out by now, we are obviously ramping up our release schedule and things. You know, we're kind of hoping, fingers crossed, COVID's in our back view mirror, and we can kind of get back to kind of a more normal release schedule. So hopefully you're going to see a lot more product coming out on a more regular basis. So I want to switch gears now and talk about 5th edition fantasy number 19, Denizens of the Reed Maze. And if Alana, if you can pop up that cover, that'd be great. So this module was out, came out in late March. We actually had it available for sale at GaryCon. This is, I actually wrote this module, I think 5 or 6 years ago. So we just got around to kind of sprucing it up and everything and putting it all together. And setting it in. It's basically it's a I like to call it a wilderness crawl. It's lower level. It's focused all around frog folk, because we're not allowed to call them bullywugs. So if you like frog folk, there are, oh my gosh, there's 7 or 8 different types of frog folk in there, and it is a really good glimpse of what you're going to see on some of the detail from Dungeon Denizens, because the frog folk are actually in Dungeon Denizens. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So you're going to see that. And then we also have a couple of sample pages of the interior. And again, this module is out and available for sale right now. Elena, if you want to pop up images 1 through 4 of FEF 19, you can see we've got a sample of the map. And then we've got a couple of samples of the pages, and one of the pages you can see all the frog folk stacks. Okay, so G Blaster, yes, about shipping. Yeah, so Hopefully we're going to have the shipping much better. Again, when the Kickstarter launches, the worst thing you can do is quote your shipping then, because you're 6 months or a year out. So we can give some estimates, but I mean shipping charges are changing by the week/month these days. So you just got to take them with a grain of salt, and you got to always expect for the worst. So I mean, if we say it's going to be $40 to ship something, maybe assume it's going to be more, and maybe you'll be surprised when we actually do ship it. I'm not sure. So again, we wish we could have answers in that. It's just, we're not the only folks having issues with this. A lot of people are. All right. No, G Blaster, not being difficult at all. You are a stalwart attendee. Love it. I love your questions and everything. So keep them flying. And History Perfect, yes. Already ordered denizens. Great. Love to hear that. So love to hear that. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Dungeon Denizens. Now, we've been talking about this for a while. We did kind of announce it quite a bit of time ago, but I think a lot of us didn't. I think I understood what this was going to be as far as size of the project, but when you're doing 500 of anything, it takes a long time. And creating 500 monsters with 20 some odd authors is one thing. Editing them with a team of 3 editors is a whole nother issue. And then art is even yet another issue. And as you can tell, we've been ramping up our product lines lately, and our artists have been extremely busy. So we are still a little bit behind the 8 ball on Dungeon Denizens, but it is coming to Kickstarter later this year, hopefully summer this year. But after we get past the Dark Tower Kickstarter, that's the next one that we're going to be ramping up for. So we are super excited. We have you guys have seen the artwork from Errol Otis. If Elena, you want to pop that up and show that for a second or two. We've also got the artwork from San Julian, and again, you guys have seen both of these covers, but you have not seen the 3rd cover artwork yet. And again, we're not sure what we're doing with covers yet. So we don't know if this is going to be slipcase, not slipcase. We don't know. So we have 3 covers. We have options. Let's put it that way. So if you want to pull up the 3rd one, which is by David Griffith. And if you guys are familiar with our previous covers or FEF modules, you're going to be very familiar with his style. So there, enjoy that. So let me give you an update. So another reason why we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on Dungeon Denizens is because if most people realize that Wizards of the Coast announced that in 2024 they're doing what everybody's calling 5.5e. They're not calling it that, but we're all calling it 5.5e. But what comes along that, they're actually tweaking their stat boxes on the monsters. Now, if you're a player of 5e, you will probably not recognize many of the changes that they're doing to the stat boxes. If you're a game master, you're going to recognize a little bit. But they released a book back in January called Monsters of the Multiverse, and that was the first time they kind of released to the world what some of these changes are. So we took a look at them. They're not that extensive. There's some formatting changes in there, a little bit different ways they do things. They add proficiency bonuses to the stats, not to the stats, but to the stat blocks. They tweak multi-attack a little bit. They did some rebalancing for the monsters to make sure that they were really, if something was CR7, it was really doing the damage output that was CR7. And thankfully, when we designed these monsters, our team was already on that. And then one of the stipulations that our editors had was to check those things. So our editors already went through and did most of those tweaks, if the designers didn't already do those. But one of the big things they changed was spellcasting. Spellcasting and innate spellcasting is done a little bit differently now. They've moved it down to the action section instead of traits. And they've taken combat spells like Magic Missile and Fireball, and they've actually made them attack options and kind of pulled them out of their stats. So there's a little bit of rejiggering there. So as a company back in January, after we got this book and I poured over it and I met with the Dark Master, we made the decision that we wanted our book to kind of reflect these changes, because we wanted the book to be, we kind of treating this as a core book, and it's going to come out in 2023, and 2024 is right around the corner. So we kind of wanted this to kind of be the latest, greatest iteration. So the last 3 months, I kid you not, folks, I've spent most of my days going through all 500 plus monsters and making all of the tweaks necessary. And it was a drag, it was a slog, but it was great actually, because I got to actually put my hands on all 500 monsters again after we've been through the editing stage. So I've got to see them again, and I've got to look at them over, and I've got to kind of, rejigger them a little bit more and make some changes. My editing team was great. They made lots of suggested changes on ways to make things better, mostly adding sidebars and adding additional content. So, and we're going to talk about a couple of monsters later on in the show. So, so it was a good process to do that, but it took a lot of time. It took a lot of hours for me to do that. So, so that's where we're at with Dungeon Denizens. So we will be, as soon as we get done with the Dark Tower Kickstarter, we're going to be ramping up for that. So hopefully later on this summer we'll have some exciting news to announce on that. I'm just going to look over at the questions and see what we got here. The history professor wants to freelance edit for us. Wow. Okay, reach out to us. History with a name like history professor. How could we say no? Can't wait for that. Cover looks badass. Yep. Yes, Dungeon Denizens. How much Pogue artwork? A lot. It's interesting. That would be a really good a good Kickstarter stream to do once that's out, to actually have the artists on and actually have like a breakdown. We need a pie chart. That would be a pie chart to break down. But I would say Stefan's done, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe. So he's done a lot of artwork. So it's gonna be awesome. Yep, the new stat blocks. You like them? I kind of like them too. From a standpoint of running the monsters at the table. Yes, the new stat boxes are awesome. So they really are. Okay, so great. We got a couple more comments. Yes, that's smart. Yay, people are telling us we're smart. I like to hear that. So tell the Dark Master that I'm being smart. I love it. Okay. So next, I would like to announce a new product that has not been announced anywhere else. So this is the first one. And this is like, well, this very well could be a brand new product line, to be honest with you. So I would like to announce that we are going to be doing a book called Monsters and Magic of Lankhmar. And this is, so obviously you guys know, and this is for 5e. This is for 5e. So you guys know that we've got a DCC version of Lankhmar. We've done a bunch of things in Lankhmar, DCC version. Well, we want to see if folks want some 5e content in Lankhmar. So this is kind of the first start of this. So this is going to be a soft cover book written by our own Michael Curtis. I can't think of anybody else who's more qualified to write Lankhmar than Mike. So basically this is a collection of, we've got monsters, we've got spells, we've got magic items, all converted to 5e. And all in a small soft cover book, and we're going to put it out there. And if folks like this concept and like this delivery packet size, we could possibly see doing more of these. I mean, that we're involved with other licenses, so that's certainly that could certainly be an option. So that is going to go to Indiegogo in late June or early July. So be sure to check out the website for that. You'll be able to follow along on the campaign. And I'm not sure if Elena already pulled it up, but you can pull up the cover art for that too, and show it off. We've got a really, really sweet piece of cover art for that book, which is really awesome. So I'm gonna look and see if we've got, okay, so I got a question, why Indiegogo versus Kickstarter? Because we have a lot of Kickstarters going on right now, and Kickstarter actually has rules about such things. So this is a way for us, we still have such a backlog from COVID of projects that we want to get out via crowdfunding. This gives us an opportunity to get more of them out there and kind of catch up and get ahead of the curve, if you will. So that's why you're seeing that one on Indiegogo. So yeah, so pulling the curtain back and saying all these different things that the fans don't see and don't understand, all the different things on the publishing side that we have to go through, the many balls in the air that we're always moving around because of all these various projects and everything. So so that's great. So that is that's all the announcements that I have. So we are going to take, if you guys have any more questions, throw them in the chat, but we are going to take a brief pause here, and we're going to bring on our special guest. Our special guest is Mihailo Tesic, and he will be zooming in from Serbia. So we're going to take a brief pause, and when we come back, I'm going to talk to Mihailo and see what he has been up to on the 5e side at Goodman Games. So see you in a few. All right, welcome back, everybody. To my virtual left is Mihailo Tesic. Say hi to everybody, Mihailo.
It's
All right.
Tesic. It's kind of harder to pronounce.
All right, Tesic, sorry.
Yeah.
And where are you zooming in from? Tell us,
I'm
everybody.
I'm zooming in from Belgrade, Serbia, so it's not Siberia, it's Serbia. It's a lot less cold here. It's
Okay.
like right next to Croatia, above Greece, like southeastern Europe.
Wow. And let's see, it is almost 5:30 my time on the East Coast, USA. What time is it you?
It's almost midnight, so maybe I'm a bit
Wow.
quieter than I'm usually, but
Oh, okay. So
it's
awesome.
11:30.
So, well, thank you for taking time to join us on the show. Really appreciate it. Folks, just a real brief introduction on who Mihailo is. So Mihailo is one of our 5E designers that we just discovered, we're talent discoverers now. When we did our open call back in 2021, we had over 100 people respond to our open call that wanted to write for us for 5E. We selected 13 of them. And I would say of that 100, I would say 50 of them were pretty good. 50 of them were, not so good. And, Mihailo was one of many of them. And to be honest with you, the reason I gravitated toward him and his work, which was not as extensive as many other people, trust me, there was a lot of people on our open call that had very extensive bibliographies, but we were not looking for extensive bibliographies. We were looking for people like Mihailo. We wanted people with passion and excitement, and you could tell from his letter that he had all that. And I reviewed every single letter that was sent into us. And then when I met him for the first time, when I gave him our first assignment, I could tell that I made the right choice. So welcome to the show, Mihailo, and welcome to the wonderful, glamorous world of freelance game design, which you're like a celebrity.
It's a pleasure. I kind of feel like a celebrity a little bit, but I must say, I suppose a lot of people say this, but this is kind of a dream come true, because being in Serbia, starting with RPGs like back in the 90s, in the 1990s here was not a nice situation here. It was really hard to get anything, so we played with photocopied rules from first edition D&D, and everything. So, but ever since that, I started making adventures. I was the guy in the crew, that was the GM, and that was making adventures. I'm not the only one. I must say that we have a shout out to my friend Svebor, who is actually currently working also with Goodman Games on the Dying Earth line,
Nice.
So he's one of my best friends. We started gaming together, So we both kind of made it one of our, not maybe childhood, but teenage dreams, I should say, and like getting stuff published in the USA, that is like the home of the RPG hobby and of everything related to it. It's really like, I suppose it's a success, doing it from here, from Serbia.
I will be honest with you, Mihailo. It's an absolute pleasure to work for you. You are to work with you. I don't work for you. Maybe one day I'll be working for you.
Knows?
You never know. But no, it's great. I mean, I love the passion. Hopefully everybody's feeling the passion right now. Because that's what we were looking for. We're looking for old school people that are passionate about what they do. Because as you well are aware, you don't do this to make tons of money. You don't do this. I did this to be able to go to conventions and meet the fans and talk to the fans. And we've even had that for the last 2 years. So, it's a lot of long, cold nights with not having fan interaction, which thankfully next month we're getting back to somewhat normal, and I'll be at Origins next month. So I'm very excited to hear the stories from people in person. It's going to be great. So yes. So anyway,
but in a way, this COVID situation was kind of a mixed thing for me, because I got to play with people in the USA and all over the world, but mostly in the USA because I love, besides 5e, I play the DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classic, and I met so many great people. It's virtual, it's over the screen, but we still met, we still hung out, we played great games. So yes. I kind of like am not thankful, but kind of glad that it happened.
And I too, I've had now 2 campaigns over Roll20 with people that are all over the country, that we would never have been able to do these games otherwise. And COVID kind of gave us that kick in the pants of, hey, if you want to do some gaming, you're going to need to adapt. And we adapted quickly and figured it out. And like I said, I'm doing one now where we actually don't have to. One of our folks is in California, but you know, it's actually easier. It's actually easier with people with families and everything to get together on a Zoom for 3 hours instead of traveling for an hour and everything. So yeah, so we try to take some good things. Hopefully another couple of years, I'll look back at this and we'll be like, hey, it's like, do you remember that terrible
and hopefully
2020?
we'll meet in person in the next couple of years.
Yes, still, and I definitely want to come to Essen sometime, and I want to meet you in person, and I want to see your country, and because you've told me a couple things already, and I'm just like, I'm fascinated with it. So
and I told you some things through the things that I made for Goodman Games, you know.
And we're gonna get to that now. So Mihailo's been working on a couple things. There's one project which he's not allowed to talk about, but there are 3 projects he has already contributed to that we're gonna go over a little bit here. So one of the first things, actually, we're gonna go kind of in a different order here. So Crypt of the Devil Lich is off to the printer. Mihailo was tapped to write one of the lost level rooms. If you guys recall, there was a stretch goal where we designed a whole nother level of Crypt of the Devil Lich, and it was designed, the design theory here was, you know, Tome of Horrors kind of style. So I looked at all of my old school writers and I said, anybody interested? Mihailo jumped all over it. He said, "Oh, he's like, love that one." He's like, "That's great." So I assigned him one of the rooms. And why don't you give us a little thumbnail brief explanation of your encounter, which is the Hall of Crimson and Silver?
Yeah, it was actually inspired by one room in the Tomb of Horrors. Well, not the one I died in a couple of times, but, but I don't want to get into too much about it. But the point of the room is that it's all a mystery, that the players, player characters or the players, that if they want to explore it, it starts off as a mystery. It's like it's a mist of crimson and silver that you need to step in to see what's behind it. And if you step in the actual room, what happens there was also inspired by, in a way, I'm going to say Serbian folk tales, but this folk tale is kind of wider. It's kind of, I think it's also in Turkey it appears, and also in maybe in Bulgaria. It's an interesting tale. It's called The Dark Realm, and it's about people who get into the dark realm and they feel like they're walking on top of some precious stones or stuff, or some stones or something, and the voice says, if you take some, you will regret it. If you don't take some, you will also regret it. And so that is the idea. You step into the, and when they, well, in the story, when they go out, so those that pick up some, they realize it's gems, you know, it's like precious stones. Those that, and so they regret that they didn't take more. And those that didn't take any, they regret that they didn't take any. So this is the inscription. I kind of translated it more poetically into English, but that's the transcription on the inscription on the entrance to the encounter. And if you pass the mist, that is kind of like that it has its own saves and everything that you need to pass, you know, and then the real encounter happens when you, should I say, what do you step into when you go there?
No, you don't have to reveal everything. So I think that gives a really
but
good.
It's an encounter that's gonna like I wanted it to be possible to role play it and to have tension with it, and also to be a really like hanging by the edge of your teeth fight, you know, or something like that, you know. So there's a possibly a really huge combat. There's possibly like some really cool possibilities for role playing. You may even take the monster with you. That's also a possibility, you know. And of course there's this really cool treasure, because, you know, not only gems, but you have people that know Crypt of the Devil Lich, they know that that through the adventure you have to collect some pieces of like
sword, the shards of the
sword, shards. So you can also find kind of a bonus shard in that room, you know, but it's really kind of a mix of luck and skill that you needed to find it. So I wanted like to provide like a lot of stuff in that encounter, and but depending on the style of player, how the dice roll.
Yes, and that's great. And I love the fact that when you sent your pitch in to me and when you sent your final encounter in, I could tell that you knew Crypt of the Devilich, because you kind of wove your encounter into kind of the backstory there on like why this encounter was even there and why Kalikia was, you know, involved in it. So there's that part. Love the whole cultural background that you put into it. I mean, that is just that it's great. I love that. I mean, it gives some realism to it, and like you said, most people will probably read this encounter and they will have no idea this was inspired by you know, your culture's folklore.
Yeah.
And they'll think it's really cool, but then, you know, someone might step across and discover that, and then be like, the light bulb goes off and they love
But
it.
maybe the coolest thing about it is that you can completely miss it, of course, you know. And I know in one playtest, I think it was ran by Bob Brinkman, that like the players were like, nope, hell no.
Yep, not going into it. Yeah, there's an archway with mist that's, you know, silver. Nope, not even gonna go in there. Yeah. So, but where's the fun in that? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's a player problem. That's not a, you know, it's like, come on.
I suppose you always design for kind of, not for yourself, but you start from yourself, and you're like, I would always go explore, you know. So, you know, I would get into that mist if I didn't know what was inside.
Agree. That's awesome. So, and so I assume you are very familiar with Tome of Horrors. It sounds like that.
Well, I played it like 3 times, I think, once in 5e, twice in first E.
Okay.
But I died every time. So
okay. Played it as a player. As a player. Wow.
Played as a player.
Wow.
Never ran it.
That's great. I've never played it as a player. I've run it as a game master once, and my group didn't get very far, and they were like, "Yep, this isn't for us." And it's not. It's not for everybody. That style is definitely not for everybody. So, awesome. Okay, so let's get to the next. So the next project that you worked on, and this is actually the first time that we're going to be announcing this. So we have our second original announcement here. So
this is the dream come true, actually.
Yes. So Mihailo, yeah, this is your own book, actually. Nobody else. I remember my first book when I was a big deal, actually, when I'd always done things that were little pieces of other books, you know, contributing author. But when I got my first book, that was, I loved it. And this is your first book. So if folks are aware, we have Free RPG Day is coming up at the end of June. I believe it's June 25th here in the States. I think it's about a month later over in Europe and other internationally. But our 5e module is going to be called The Three Wizard Conundrum, and Mihailo wrote it late last year, and I think we have the artwork. If you can just throw, actually I think we have the cover, actually, if you can throw that up there, and keep that up there for a little while. It is pretty awesome, that artwork.
It's an awesome cover.
So Mihailo, tell us a little bit about you know, about the module, but also you know, what your inspiration was and how you approached this project.
Yeah, so the deal with that's why the cover is so important, because it actually started with the cover, you know. And I kind of love doing that, because in like my day job, I used to like do some advertising and design and whatever. And so, you know, when you like start with a picture and like need to add words or what the picture says, I love doing that. So it was like really a task that really fit my style. And so the cover like represents those three obviously wizards, you know. But where's the
conundrum?
Obviously, but where's the conundrum? You know, I wanted like to, because it's a short adventure because the free RPG books are usually like slim, you know. So free RPG Day, I mean, books. So I want to make it short, and like, so let's fit it between adventures, you know. Let's do something that can be inserted anywhere into basically any fantasy campaign, you know. And so it's a downtime adventure kind of thing, or at least it starts like that. And what happens, like some wizards want adventures, as they usually do, you know. But this time it's three wizards, you know, and they each want the adventures for the same thing, you know. They want to retrieve some mystical ring or something, you know. And the big thing is like in the adventure you can choose which wizard you want to work for, and each wizard has kind of a special test for you, you know, so to see whether you are worthy or whether your party is worthy of doing it. And well, you know, maybe the main twist that I want to reveal about the adventure for the people that are watching, you know, kind of special. They're not wizards at all. They're just some like lucky thugs and rogues and thieves that like that have stumbled upon a cool way to like lure adventurers into their demise and profit from it, you know. So that's the gist of the adventure, and the adventure is basically like part role playing. When you meet up the wizards and they each have distinct personalities, I try to make like some quirks for each one of them and specific things. And of course they also kind of they're crooks, so they're kind of could turn on each other also, you know. So it's up to the players to they maybe can work a lot of stuff out beforehand and not to even go to the adventure, but if they go, there's a really cool trap awaiting them there with a lot of possible like solutions. I mean, trap in a way, not like a trap mechanism, but like an elaborate trap thing. And there's also some really, I think, cool NPCs that I was inspired from some comic books that I like, you know, that I put inside. There's like a cool NPC. How could you say it? Like a party that is like kind of a what's the word that I'm looking for? Kind of your rivals, yeah, your rival party.
Oh, okay, yeah, rival, yes, the rival parties, yes.
That you can meet there. So there's kind of several moving parts, you know, and a lot of stuff that's kind of up to role playing and what you can do. And there's like several combat encounters that you need to have that in an adventure.
It is great. I remember, so when we had the cover, and I remember I sent it to Mihailo, and I said, okay, I'm like, obviously we need a wizard, some kind of wizard NPCs. And when he came back with, okay, here's what I want to do, and I don't want to make them wizards. And I was like, well, okay, well, that's a bold move. I'm like, okay, let's go with that. And then when he described to me what he wanted, I was like, wow, I'm like, Mihailo, I'm like, you don't have many words to do this. Like, this is going to be really tricky. I'm like, you're going to use up a lot, because we wanted these guys, everybody who knows 5e, fully statted out 5e, yeah, even though they're not that high level, eats up your word count, and takes up a lot of space in the book. And I was like, wow, this is going to be a challenge. And I was pleasantly surprised when you sent in the draft. You pulled it off. You pulled it off everything, and you even had room for an exciting little table at the end, nice random table.
We should say something about that there, because it's like the whole thing that the party is going to, if they accept the wizard quest. It's a wild magic zone, you know. The magic is already there, you know. So there was even I tried to fit in a D100 table. It's actually a D50 because there's like two numbers per result. But it's like an alternative wild magic table that you can find in 5e books. Yeah, here's another one. Use it. Why not?
Yep. And that's great. And I remember when you sent the draft in, you were like, oh my gosh, whatever you do, let's try and keep the table. You were like, I'll cut these other parts. I'll trim this part down. And he's like, we have to keep the table. And I was like, okay, we'll see what we can do. And it was fine. It worked out. We were able to pull it off. But yeah, it makes it great. And stuff like that. See, I look at something like that. I'd hate to pull that table. I'd hate to cut that table. That table is where it's at. I mean, to be able to get a free book, going to your friendly local game store and support them. Hopefully you buy some other stuff while you're there. And then to get something like an alternate wild magic table. I mean, in my opinion, you could never have enough alternate wild magic tables. I mean, it's like, that's the very nature of them. I mean,
that's the idea, to provide like worthy content, you know, like, okay, so here's something you can use, not even for this adventure, you know, maybe for something else.
Use it for something else. Exactly. So great. Well, thank you for sharing that. So folks, that is June 25th, Free RPG Day. We will have a DCC Free RPG Day module too. I believe Mike dropped the title of that. That is called Danger in the Air. So there will be a DCC Free RPG Day module. There will be a 5e one. And look for our website when we announce that, and then also on the Free RPG Day website. Please support Free RPG Day. It's a great opportunity. It's a great excuse. Who needs an excuse to go to a game store and spend money? But anyway, I mean, game stores have had a rough time the last 2 years. You know, these brick and mortar stores, and we really need to support them. And I know it's really easy to go on Amazon or wherever just to order stuff. And some people honestly don't have many options because they don't live near a store. And that's fine. But if you do have a store near you, it's a wonderful opportunity to go around. Last fall, I had 3 stores. They weren't close, but I spent basically several hours driving to 3 different stores. I never would have went to these stores otherwise. I went to all of them. I checked them out. And they're pretty cool stores. I mean, I'd go back to those stores any other time if they weren't an hour and a half away from my house. But but anyway, it's a great opportunity, and it was a great opportunity to give Mihailo his own book, and everything, and that's just going to be I'm telling you folks, you're going to see his name some more, and we're going to talk a little bit about another project that he worked on. So as I mentioned, Mihailo we found him, we discovered his talent when we did the open call for our 5e writers. And the first assignment that we had for the open call writers, we had 13 of them, was to design monsters for Dungeon Denizens. So we wanted to get about 100, a little over 100 monsters from all of our writers. So we assigned each of them 6 to 8, I think it was 6 to 9 monsters. And Mihailo was one of those. And we did a whole process where we're like, send me a pitch, send me a bunch of pitches, and then I'll let you know which pitches we're gonna go with. And then I culled that number down, made sure that we didn't have 6 different varieties of vampires from different people. Make sure we're all getting different monsters, because that was a big part of what we wanted to do. We wanted to have different monsters. We didn't want just oh, here's a smaller version of a purple worm kind of thing. So we tapped all of our writers to do that. Mihailo was one of them. So let's talk about 2 of your monsters, and we've actually got artwork for the monsters as well. So tell me a little, which one would you like to do first? Which one?
Which one is the artwork by Stefan Pog? It's the Babaroga, right?
I think that's Babaroga. Yes. So let's talk about that. So if you can pop up the artwork there, Alana, we'll make sure that that's the right one. I think it is.
Also, shout out to Stefan.
Yes. So tell us. Yes. Look at that. Oh my God, I love that artwork.
And he also did the splash inside for the Three Wizard Conundrum. Shout out for that. I want to tell him, if he's listening to this, that's like everything I want in an adventure is in that picture. It's like pterodactyls, goblins, like mountains, adventures. It's like, yes, that's what I want to play.
Yep. And guys, you guys probably don't realize this, but as writers, when we see the artwork come back from our vision, when we envision what an encounter looks like, and then we get that piece of artwork back, or in this case, a monster, that is what it all comes together. And that's probably one of the best opportunities. So tell us about, I think a lot of people know about Baba Yaga, but I don't think too many people know about Babaroga. So tell us
it's
about
like like Serbia is a small part of the Slavic, like culture or whatever, but we have our own versions of some of the stuff that's more widely known. So actually, Babaroga is a monster that I know since when I was a kid. It's in a nursery rhyme, and it tells you that there's a dark cave she lives in, and she's going to eat any kid, and you can only offer her fruit and hope, that she doesn't eat you. It's like kind of a silly nursery rhyme, but it sounds nice in Serbian. But she's actually like a mythological creature that does exactly that, the stuff that's described in the nursery rhyme. So I was like, man, I want to do something with her, I want to show her to the world, or something like that. But because she really is kind of a scary, creepy monster, it's Baba Yaga is kind of more like she's a witch, she's scary, she has her hut and everything, but you can kind of work with her. Maybe I don't know, at least the way I see it, she's kind of an evil NPC, but this Babaroga is kind of a monster, she's a sort of a hag, but she lives in the night, in the darkness, and that's why I wanted to make all her special abilities and stuff that have to do with, like, you can't see her, she's invisible, she's under cover of the darkness, and she can eat you, it's also a possibility, and so I think all her like not only attack actions but also her legendary actions reflect that.
Yes, and exactly. And so this is a unique demon lord essentially that you're getting. We've got lair actions. In the lair actions, there's a random table for like how she can change her lair, which is awesome. I love
because
that.
She actually lives in a cave that is everywhere where the dark places are. So you can stumble into her cave if you go behind the dark corner at midnight, or maybe if you look inside of a tomb, or something, it's going to be her lair. And when you fight her, she can change where the lair is. So the lair changes and various stuff happens depending on where the lair is, so you get different, not lair actions, but lair effects. Her action is to change the lair, and the effect can be like one of 6 things, so.
Yes, and one of her legendary actions is is I love it. You called it dinner time.
Yeah.
And she wraps your shawl around you and she eats you
She
and brings
eats
you
you,
down to
you know.
0 hit points. I love
Yeah.
it because we've seen it. There are other monsters that do that, but just the imagery of that, pulled right from the culture. And then we just mechanically said, how do we do this? Okay, I think we can do this. This has been done before. This is like the other
Yeah.
hags where you look at them and you die, you instantly go down to 0 hit points. Same deal.
Yeah,
But that
and this one has a small twist that she actually keeps the character inside her, and
yes.
like the character is not gone automatically, but it's inside her shawl, inside her body, whatever. And then there's like a kind of like possibility to role play. Maybe you can haggle with her for having the character back, or something,
And
because then she's satiated. How do you say satiated or something? Like she's like
yep,
fed up.
satiated. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I love the design for that. There's just so much you can do with the design, and it's so, like I said, it just oozes that culture, and you were the perfect person to create this monster, and I think it really came out when we at the end of the day when we looked at it, we're like, oh yeah, I'm like, this is good, and it sprawls. It's like this one's going to take up, I think, at least 2 pages in the book. Most of our monsters are doing 1 page. This might be 2. It might even be a 3rd page once we get
Oh
the
God.
artwork and that table in there.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Hey, come on. So we'll worry about that when it comes to the cost of the paper. But but anyway, so yeah, just fascinating. So let's talk about your second monster that we're going to share with you tonight.
It's also maybe a 2-pager.
Yes, actually, yes, it also sprawls as well. But that's what we really tried to do with this book. We really tried to give not just monsters, not just full color artwork for every monster, which also VTT assets and everything. But we wanted other cool things. We wanted sidebars. We wanted new spells. We wanted new magic items that kind of tie in thematically to the monster. So what was your second design that you want to talk about here?
My second design is inspired by a couple of things converged for me to think about it. One is that let me just go into some background first. This is maybe going to be interesting to hear. When I started like playing Dungeons and Dragons, I told you we had like maybe photocopied basic books and everything, but we had almost next to none adventures. I think we had some Dragonlance stuff or something like that, which is kind of hard to get into. Like, but the point being that I created most of the first adventures I ran for my people, for my friends. Well, like I went through Monster Manual and read about the monsters, and I was thinking, well, what could this? Where does it come from? What does it do? And in the old monster manuals, in the second edition ones, you had some ecology stuff, like maybe some interesting tidbits about what the monster does and how it lives. And I made adventures from that. So now when I design monsters, I try every monster to make allow for some kind of a narrative about it, something that can come from it. So this one is a devil. And I was thinking, well, the devils, all the talk about devil is like how you can sell your soul to them, and there's no literally devil that does that in monster books that I've read, for 5e, and there's actually no mechanic for that. But for the mechanic, I have also to shout out to Mr. Bob Brinkman, who told me that I can do that. I can like suggest a table or something additional, not only at the monster block. So I'm really thankful for him because it's really worked out well. So this is the devil that is a contractor devil, and he's the one that deals with contracts for all the souls that are sold to the devil. So he's not literally the guy that the devil that can buy your soul, but he's the one that keeps tabs, and he's the one that trades with all the souls, because I see souls as the currency of the 9 hells, and so they're kind of like a evil devil Wall Street broker kind of guys.
Yeah, and serves you papers.
Yeah, and they carry the seal of, can I say Asmodeus? They carry the seal of the main devil guy, and they can hit you with it, and they can stomp the deal, the contract with it. So that's kind of their thing, and they look like evil, big like anaconda snakes and stuff like that, But I think it's all the imagery and everything kind of works towards a single idea, I think.
Certainly, and what's really cool about your entry, so we have a huge sidebar, actually. It's probably going to be it's going to end up to be a page probably, of the devil's contracts, and basically we've got some awesome random tables in there to roll about what happens, like what's the actual price, what's the stipulation, and we got all these random tables. And again, these tables, I love these tables because they have a very hardcore first edition feel to them. You know, Mr. Gygax always did tables and subtables. Like after you roll on this table, now go
Yeah.
roll on that table, and then on that table
Yeah.
go roll on that
Well,
table. Subtable A, B, C. Love that.
well,
And really, these tables are just meant to get the game master thinking
yeah,
about, oh,
yeah,
okay, I can do this. I think an even better idea for, because when you read that, there might not be something in that table that's going to suit your campaign, but it'll get you thinking about how can I use this for my
yeah, yeah.
campaign.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
try
what I
to
really love.
I try to make it universal in a way that, like, you need to know who the devil that you're signing a contract with is, so you roll for that, and you need to know what the price is, so you roll for that. What you're gonna give to the
Yep.
devil? Is it just your soul, or is it maybe something more? And that actually depends upon your character level. So if you're like maybe
Yes.
like small level, a low level, you can only
Yeah.
he's gonna take your soul. But if you're a high level character, he's gonna ask you to become a tyrannic ruler or make war, conquest, and oppression. So that's what devils want.
Yeah.
And of course you can maybe try to find out what the stipulation is, because it's like a secret thing, and that's also rolled. And of course the game master can always think up of their own. So it's just like, hey, you can do this.
Yes, and I love that. I love the little touches in there of if the characters are this level, here's what he's going to ask for. If the characters are this level, here's, and again, it just gives you that, first of all, it makes the monster more versatile. I mean, most times devils are, that's a high level monster. Okay, we're not going to be using that for low level. But you know
Yeah.
what? You could weave this guy into a low level story, and this could be something where, okay, maybe that, you're gonna have to pay this at some point, back when you're like, when later down the road in the campaign,
If-
when you're 10th level,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
gonna come back, and maybe you'll pay, or maybe you'll just try and take him out. And,
yeah. So that was the idea. Narrative about the monster.
exactly. So, well, that's great. Well, no, thank you so much for sharing with our audience, the process that you went through, and just how detailed these monsters are. And folks, 500 monsters, and you're just getting a little tidbit of just what Mihailo went through when he created his two. I can't guarantee that they're all going to be 2 or 3 pages long, because they're not.
Of course not.
And they're not as detailed. Obviously, we picked a couple here that are really interesting to talk about. But we did try to go the extra mile with this project, and we're hoping, we can't wait to start talking about it. We can't wait for it to go to Kickstarter. We want to be able to share off all this wonderful artwork that we're sitting on, and it'll happen. It's coming, folks. It's just, we're getting there.
I can't wait to hold the book in my hand after I pay $200 for shipping.
Yes, thanks for that one right there. So we get a little ding in on the shipping and everything. So we got a couple people showing up in the chat late. Thank you for the congrats on Dark Tower. Got it. This show will be posted on YouTube, so if any of you guys missed the beginning of the show, wait a couple of days, it'll be up eventually, and you guys can watch it and everything, and see all the announcements and everything. And then of course, everybody go check out the website. I think next week some of these things are going to be announced officially, so if you prefer to read your announcements as opposed to getting them live or getting them on YouTube, we'll get you there too. Mihailo, thank you so very much for your time,
Thank you for
and
having
staying
me.
up late. Coming, I appreciate it. I'd love to have you on another show down the road. I think, when Dungeon Denizens, goes out on Kickstarter, I think maybe we'll tap you for a stream at some point, so you can talk about some of your other monsters and everything. But I appreciate it.
I would
I
love
really
to.
do. So awesome. And Elena, thank you so much for handling everything behind the glass and all the pictures. And with that, we're going to put a stamp on this episode of Coming Down the 5e Pike. And like I said, folks, we're going to be coming out with these episodes about every 2 months now. So sometime in early July, probably, we'll be coming out with another episode. So I look forward to seeing you guys all then. Until then, I hope you guys roll lots of 20s. So have a good one.